Orichalcos support. We currently have the very poorly designed, not at all like its anime counterpart, Orichalcos Shuneros. We've got the nigh unplayable, nerfed so hard Seal of Orichalcos, and of course the terribly mediocre Divine Serpent. Gah! So if Konami wants to make the rest of the Orichalcos support into real cards, what can they do to save this archetype? Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to answer that question with my own custom Orichalcos support based on the anime, as well as a couple extra support cards to really get the deck going and get the real cards that we currently have working with the deck. So these new Orichalcos support cards that I have made will work with the current real-life Orichalcos cards that we have, including the field spell and the Orichalcos Shuneros, which is horrendous. And these cards will work with them and make them into a viable strategy, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So let's take a look. So I think the best place for us to start off with would be looking at Orichalcos Deuteros. This is my version of Orichalcos Deuteros. It is a field spell. It works with the real-life Seal of Orichalcos. You can activate it by sending one face-up Seal of Orichalcos from your field to the graveyard, and this card's name is also treated as the Seal of Orichalcos while face-up on the field. Now, if you don't know what the real-life Seal of Orichalcos does, take a look on screen. We've got it on screen now. So basically what this card does is sort of what the anime version does. Gives everything 500 attack, can't be destroyed once per turn, which is kind of okay, I guess. It prevents your opponent from attacking your weakest monsters, which is in relation to the second row of monsters that you have in the anime. But then it has a lot of really heavy downsides. For starters, when it's activated, all your special summon monsters get destroyed, which is terrible, and you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. Also, you can only use the Seal of Orichalcos once per duel. So this card is not really fantastic nor ideal. So what I've done with the new field spells is just upgrade this effect with each one and add on the extra effects that come with the anime counterpart. So what we've got for Orichalcos Deuteros is, of course, all monsters you control gain 500 attack, that's normal. This card cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, so that's a bit of an upgrade from the can't be destroyed once per turn. And while you control 2 or more attack position monsters, your opponent can't target the monsters with the lowest attack. That's the same as the Seal of Orichalcos. The following effects of the Seal of Orichalcos can only be activated once per turn. So this card's name is treated as Seal of Orichalcos, and Orichalcos Tritos is treated as the Seal of Orichalcos. So you can only use these once per turn, hard once per turn effects, even if you activate Tritos on top of it on the same turn. So these effects are, during your main phase, you can gain 500 life points for each monster you control, and when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you contribute one monster you control to destroy the attacking monster. Now these are effects taken straight from the anime. They're basically like word for word put on the card. There's nothing we really need to change there. They're not that overpowered. The life point gain effect is pretty strong, but it's not completely broken. And this just builds on the Seal of Orichalcos with its, it allows you to summon from the extra deck for starters. It doesn't blow up your special summon monsters, and it has a little bit more protection than the Seal of Orichalcos. Next, let's take a look at Orichalcos Tritos. This card again builds on Orichalcos Deuteros, so you can only activate this card by sending a face-up Orichalcos Deuteros from your field to the graveyard, and this card's name is also treated as the Seal of Orichalcos while face-up on the field. The ruling on that, since it says it's also treated as, means that Orichalcos Deuteros is still Orichalcos Deuteros while on the field, so let's just point that out before someone else does. All monsters you control gain 500 attack, so that's great. This card is unaffected by card effects, so this has the full, complete protection that the anime Seal of Orichalcos has. It is completely unaffected by card effects. There's basically no way to get rid of it, I don't think. No, it's unaffected by card effects. You can't get rid of it, right? So, the next thing that this does is when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you contribute one monster you control to destroy the attacking monster. So, I upgraded that from a once per turn effect to a as many times as you want per turn. You still have to tribute a monster, so it's not fantastic. Like, this ain't breaking anything. It's not Mirror Force. but it's just a bit of an upgrade from the second seal. Next, the following effects of the Seal of Orichalcos can only be activated once per turn. Once per turn, during your main phase, you can gain 500 life points for each monster you control, same as the second seal. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can negate the activation and destroy that card. So that is in reference to the third seal's effect in the anime, where it negates spell and trap effects. In the anime, it doesn't stop monster effects, but I feel like for real life, especially in today's day and age, stopping those monster effects is really important. I don't think it's that overpowered. It takes 2 cards to get this thing out already, and you need to have like all 3 of those in your hand, and it just provides some protection for our boss monsters, that being Shuneros and Divine Serpent, which don't really have their own protection. You need Tritos to help keep those on the field if you're going to win the game. Finally, I've added an extra effect to this card that if an Orichalcos Shuneros you control would be destroyed, quick effect, you can add 1 Divine Serpent card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Now, I said Divine Serpent card because I've made a Divine Serpent support card, but this will just allow us to, if you've got Tritos on the field, your opponent's about to destroy Shuneros, you can, before it's destroyed, get Divine Serpent to your hand, who can then be special summoned with its own effect, which I think is a pretty cool addition and just really helps the deck to keep going, helps that it adds to the Shuneros effect, because in the anime, of course, Shuneros just summons Divine Serpent by its own effect. Divine Serpent doesn't come out. It doesn't need to be summoned from your hand. So this just gets that going, helps, get that effect for Shuneros. So those are the field spell cards. I don't think they're too broken. I think they are very, that's a realistic build up from the real life Seal of Orichalcos, and I think it's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the monster cards. So we've got Orichalcos Cutora. By the way, I did the artwork for these monsters myself, added in the Seal of Orichalcos in the background, which no one has done before, so you want to use these artworks, hit me up, let me know, go on Dueling Book, they're all there, they're all public. I think it's pretty cool. But, Orichalcos Cutora, so what I've done for this card to make it work with the real life one is, if you control a face-up the Seal of Orichalcos, you can pay 500 life points to place this card from your hand face up in your spell and trap zone, and it is still a monster. It won't be able to attack while it's in the spell and trap card zone, but it is still treated as a monster for the sake of the second seal's effect. This gets it its special summon effect and combines with the back row stuff that you have with the Seal of Orichalcos in the anime. While this card is on the field, all damage you take becomes 0. That's its anime effect. I don't think that's too broken at all. It's not that hard to get rid of. When this card is destroyed, special summon 1 Orichalcos Shuneros from your hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions, and if you do, its attack and defense become equal to the amount of damage reduced to 0 by the effect of Orichalcos Cutora this duel. Then you can special summon 1 Orichalcos Risros and 1 Orichalcos Dexia from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So again, this is basically the same as the anime effect. It summons Shuneros and then it gets out Aristos and Dexia, which are meant to be by Shuneros' effect, but of course in real life Shuneros doesn't do that. So we've got to apply all of Shuneros' effects onto Cutora here to get it working the way that it's meant to in the anime, which I think came out pretty well. And again, yeah, it's kind of cool card and lets you use the same anime strategy. Now, fun fact, in the anime, the Orichalcos monsters don't actually have types and attributes, so I've had to add those in. Everyone seems to just sort of agree for some reason that this is a rock. I don't know how that started, but that seems to be a universal agreement that this is a rock monster, so I'm just gonna go with rock. I think it's cool. Personally, I think he's more of a fiend, but I just feel like that's too easy. Rock, for some reason, makes a lot of sense. I don't know why, but that seems to be the way. So next, of course, we've got Orichalcos Gigas, who is also a rock monster, so that's kind of cool. This card is destroyed. You can special summon it immediately. So that is its anime effect. Back in the day, they had to nerf Revival Jam, who had the same effect, but I think nowadays, that effect is not actually all that strong, and it's only if it's destroyed, and of course we have Nightmare Unicorn who can just pop it, or even SP Little Knight who can banish it, so it's not that OP, it's only when it's destroyed, and you special summon it immediately. In the anime, however, you would have to skip your draw phase for this effect, which made it a little more balanced, but again, today's day and age, it really doesn't need that to be balanced. I don't think that's a necessary effect at all, and we do actually want people to be running these cards, right? This card gains 500 attack times the number of times it was special summoned by its own effect during this duel. Another difference in the anime is that it can't attack the turn it's special summoned. Again, I don't think that that is necessary at all. I think one of the main reasons for running this card is to crash into your opponent's monsters and bring it back constantly with the Kyutoro loop to give him attack, and also to get Shunoros's attack by Kyutoro's effect. Yeah, so I think enabling it to attack when it's special summoned, you can just start crashing into your opponent's monster until you're able to kill it. I think that's a necessary thing to have on this card, and I don't think that that is, like, at all a broken effect in today's day and age. One other effect that I added to this card is while you control the Seal of Orichalcos, monsters your opponent controls must attack this card if able. So that just, again, adds to its effect, forces our opponents to attack it, increasing its attack, and when it gets high enough, of course, they just, like, crash into it. It also forces our opponent to attempt to deal damage to us, and if we've got Kyutoro on the field, of course, he absorbs the damage and adds it to Shunoros's attack points later. So I think that was a necessary effect to add. I think it just adds a little bit of spice to this card and makes it a lot cooler and a lot more playable. Next we have Orichalcos Diablos, also known as Orichalcos Malevolence for you English watchers. Again, I added the Orichalcos to these backgrounds, which I think is kind of cool. But Orichalcos Diablos, so this card is arguably the worst card in Darts' deck, as it doesn't really do anything. Its anime effect, and effect that I've given it here, is its anime effect is that once per turn, you can switch the battle position of one of your opponent's monsters, like from defense to attack, and that is just really useless, and nobody would ever use this card ever. Even in my Darts deck, I added one just because Darts runs it, but he shouldn't. It's not that good. However, I've made it a little bit different for the real-life counterpart. First of all, its effect, all face-up monsters your opponent controls are changed to attack position. So this is no longer a once-per-turn effect, it is now a just continuous effect. Your opponent's monsters are forced into attack position so that this card can, like, destroy them, Gygas can destroy them, you can start dealing damage. Which is kind of important for this deck, because of course if you go into a big Shunoros or Divine Serpent, and your opponent just starts putting stuff in defense mode, there's not much you can do. So this helps. I also gave it a secondary effect that you can discard this card to add one Orichalcos field spell from your deck to your hand. Any deck or archetype that runs a field spell as its main card always has this monster. And this deck needed it too, right? So we've done that with Orichalcos Diablos, who doesn't do anything else and is not really important to the strategy. But now we've given him a very, very useful effect for this deck, which is a good reason to run 3 of them, to be honest. I would run 3 of it if this were a real card, just to get Deuteros and Tritos as well as the original seal. Makes that a lot easier. Next, let's look at Orichalcos Dexia and Orichalcos Aristeros. First of all, again, I would like to point out the artwork. Nobody else has done the artwork like this. I did this artwork specifically to match with the background of the real-life Orichalcos Shunoros. No one else has been able to pull that off, so I think that's pretty cool. I'm just a little bit proud of that. But this card, I've given Aristeros and Dexia one extra effect. So first of all, they have their same anime effects. Of course, just like the anime, if it battles with an opponent's monster, its attack or Aristeros's defense become equal to the battling monster's attack or defense plus 300, same as in the anime, until the end of the damage step. And after damage calculation, one Orichalcos Shunoros you control loses attack equal to the attack this card had during the damage step. So that is just the same as the anime. I don't think that's broken, like, really at all. It is a little bit strong, I think, but I have added an extra effect at the end that if you don't control Orichalcos Shunoros, then destroy this card. So that effect, I think, is kind of necessary because 1, it's meant to work with Shunoros, 2, it's a pretty strong effect for a level 4 monster, and 3, being able to summon 3 monsters with Kyutoro. Yeah, if you get rid of Shunoros for like a link summon, then these 2 will die as well. And also, you know, if your opponent kills Shunoros, then these 2 will die as well. It just makes sense. That's how it's meant to go in the anime. Also, I've given Aristeros and Dexia one extra effect just to help them, to make them not a dead card when you draw them. Because normally when you draw this card, since in the anime it can only be summoned by the effect of Shunoros, in my version they'll be destroyed if Shunoros isn't on the field. So I've given them one extra effect to make them not a dead card if you draw them. And that is, you can discard for Dexia, you can discard this card to add one Orichalcos Gygas from your deck to your hand. And for Aristeros, you can discard this card to add one Orichalcos Kyutoro from your deck to your hand. Also, this card, being the defending one, I've given it the effect that Orichalcos Generos you control cannot be targeted by card effects. So that just adds a little bit of extra defense for your Generos, giving it protection that it desperately needs, especially in the real life version. It has no protection. We've got the third seal of Orichalcos to protect it, but now we've got a Restauros as well, which just really adds to it. So this lets you add your Orichalcos Gigas or your Cutora from your deck to your hand, which lets you go into the main strategy of Darts' deck, which I think just adds to these cards and makes it really cool. Finally, for the real life lineup, we have Mirror Knight Calling and Orichalcos Mirror. So let's take a look at the ritual spell first. Orichalcos Mirror. This card is used to ritual summon Mirror Knight Calling. You must also tribute monsters whose total levels equal 6 or more from your hand or field. So that's just a normal ritual spell. Tribute levels up to 6 and special summon the Mirror Knight Calling from your hand. However, this card, I've given it a bonus effect to help it match the anime effect without making it too broken. So this card's extra effect that I've given it is if you control the Seal of Orichalcos, you can ritual summon Mirror Knight Calling from your hand or deck and place it face up in your spell and trap card zone. It is still a monster. So this, while you control the Orichalcos, it gives you the effect to summon it from the deck, which it does do in the anime. It special summons it from the deck, and also lets you put it in your spell and trap card zone. The amount of times that I'm saying deck in this video, and all the comments that I've gotten lately about my pronunciation of deck, I'm starting to hear it. I'm becoming an American. This is not good. I'm gonna pronounce it deck as long as I want, as a New Zealander. Anyway, so if you control one of the Orichalcos field spells, they're all treated as Seal of Orichalcos while on the field. You can special summon it from your deck. You can put it in your spell and trap card zone, so that gives it all those effects that you want. Next up, let's look at Mirror Knight Calling. So Mirror Knight Calling is a little bit strong in the anime. It lets you special summon 4 monsters off the bat as soon as it's summoned. I've had to weaken that just a tad, but still made it very, very usable in this deck. So, you can ritual summon this card with Orichalcos Mirror, obviously. If this card is ritual summoned while you control the Seal of Orichalcos, then you can special summon 4 Mirror Knight tokens. The Mirror Knight tokens are the same as in the anime. You put a shield counter on them. Once per turn, quick effect, you can place 1 shield counter on each Mirror Knight token you control, max 1. And when a Mirror Knight token you control battles an opponent's monster, its attack becomes equal to that monster's attack until the end of the damage step. So that's just like the anime. And also, if a Mirror Knight token you control would be destroyed, you can remove 1 shield counter from your field instead. So that is exactly like the anime. The only added downside that I've given to this card is that to summon the Mirror Knights, you need to have the Seal of Orichalcos on the field. So for most decks, if you have the Seal of Orichalcos, you summon your Mirror Knight tokens, but then you can't go into your extra deck summons, of course. So that just limits what you can do with this card, limiting those link plays and making it being played the way that it's meant to. However, of course, if you control Orichalcos Juturos or Orichalcos Tritos, I haven't given those cards the extra deck restriction. So if you have one of those cards, you can still go into the full link play. It just slows that down a bit, makes it a little bit more balanced. As opposed to the anime version where you can just like summon 5 monsters, go into all sorts of link plays. I feel like that's a little bit much and is a good way to get limited or banned, which is not what we want. So I've limited that a bit, made it specifically for the Orichalcos deck, obviously, and just slowed it down a bit. Okay, so that is all for the actual Orichalcos cards that we see in the anime. Next, I've added a few extra support cards just to really improve the deck. So the first one being Divine Serpent Infinity End. If you don't know, Infinity End is the attack name for Divine Serpent Gear in the anime. It's Infinity End, so this is one of those attack name cards, right? So I think it's really cool. Again, I did this artwork myself, like added that infinity and everything and made it look really cool. So that was me, you know, just saying. But I think this card is really cool and basically is to give Divine Serpent Gear its anime effect, because in real life, Divine Serpent Gear is kind of really mediocre. He doesn't do a lot. He's always stronger than the monster he attacks, I guess, but that it's kind of got that infinity effect going on, but doesn't really have the same oomph that the anime version had. Like in the anime, this card had an infinite attack and was like, I summon this card, I win, right? So this effect kind of gives it that effect. So first of all, you can only use each effect of Divine Serpent Infinity End once per turn. During the damage step, when a Divine Serpent Gear you control battles, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then send the top 10 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So it's just like in the anime, you have to send the top 10 cards of your deck to the graveyard to attack. And then this card's effect is, once you do that, that monster gains attack equal to your opponent's life points until the end of the damage step. So basically, if you attack an attack position monster, or you attack your opponent directly with Divine Serpent gear, basically you win the duel like that, right? So that is the purpose of this card. Give it that infinite attack, and just give it a lot more oomph to go like, hey, this is our boss monster, and we're gonna bloody use it. I've also given an extra effect that if a Divine Serpent gear you control would be destroyed, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So that gives, again, Divine Serpent that bit of extra protection that it really needs. The real life version does have targeting protection, but it's really not, it's not enough for our boss monster, right? It's just not enough. And I think that this really adds to it. And it can be searched with Orichalcos Tritos, my version, so there's that too. Divine Serpent was severely underpowered when it came out, and this just adds to it a little bit more, and I think is kind of a realistic card that Konami would make. Finally, I have added some completely new and original cards just to support the deck. If you don't want to hear about these cards, then skip ahead. I'm going to show a bit of a deck, a short example deck later. I think these cards kind of add to the deck, make it a lot more playable, and make it somewhat viable in a competitive sense. So first of all is Orichalcos Matia. A lot of people just make this card. I don't know who the first person to invent the Orichalcos Matia card is, but it's been going around for since I was 10? So for 14 years at least, it's been going around a long time. But Orichalcos Matia basically means Orichalcos Eyes, and it is an Orichalcos Searcher spell. So this card, normal spell, pay 500 life points, add one Orichalcos card from your deck to your hand. Basically a rotor for the deck, costs 500, which is nothing if you've got Deuteros on the field, and adds any of our Orichalcos cards, monsters, or spells. It's fantastic. Easy card, definitely something that the deck needs. Next, a completely original one. I did not do the artwork for this either though, the Power of Destiny. So you'll notice this isn't an Orichalcos card, so it can't be searched with Matia, which is intentional. I didn't want this card to be searchable because it is kind of very, very strong. So this basically gives the Seal of Orichalcos its anime effects. That's the intended purpose of this card. Also supports one of the extra deck monsters, which we'll get to in a second. So you activate this card by sending one Orichalcos monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. That will become relevant soon. This card is a continuous spell. While you control the Seal of Orichalcos, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So this basically gives your opponent the downside of the Seal of Orichalcos that you would have if it's on the field, which is very crippling to every deck. This is a very powerful card just for that effect alone, but of course you suffer from it too, unless you control the second or third seal, which are the Seal of Orichalcos. Second effect is during your battle phase, quick effect, you can place one monster you control face up in your spell and trap zone, it is still a monster, or move one monster from your spell and trap card zone to your main monster zone. So this basically gives it its anime effect of the second row of monsters. You can essentially have 2 rows of monsters if you've got this card out, and you can bring out all of their power during the battle phase, and also move monsters during your opponent's battle phase just to give them that protection from monster attacks, which I think is a really cool effect. It's a lot of fun to play with, and I don't think it's too broken, but it is definitely a powerful card that you don't want to be searched by any of our cards, and I think it's a realistic card to add just to give the Seal of Orichalcos that extra boost, because Seal of Orichalcos is meant to be a stupidly powerful card in the anime, and the real life counterpart is really, really, really not that good. It is quite a shame that it really kind of sucks. But this card can be used in any deck with the Seal of Orichalcos. Of course, Seal of Orichalcos first seal can only be used once per duel, so it's not that dangerous of a card. Get rid of the first seal or the second seal, and it's basically crippled. If you get Tritos out though, you're in trouble, but yeah, I think that works. I think it's a pretty cool card and is a lot of fun. Next up, I've added a couple extra deck monsters. The deck seriously needs it in today's day and age. You gotta have extra deck monsters, so I've added 2. First being a Link 2 monster, Orichalcos Stratiotis, which means Orichalcos Soldier. It is the Orichalcos Soldier that Dart summons to duel against Yugi and to fight in the Battle of Atlantis, but we don't actually see it as a monster. So this is a Link 2 monsters requiring 2 Dark monsters, which all of our Orichalcos monsters are. This card basically just gives us our starters, right? So you can also link summon this card using one ritual monster you control. The reason for that is if you have Orichalcos Mirror, you summon, like you've got pre-prep of rights or something, you summon your Mirror Knight Calling, but you don't have the Seal of Orichalcos in your hand or on your field, so it's not really a starter. You don't have your Mirror Knight tokens on the field, you've just got a useless level 6 monster. So for that situation, this turns it into a starter. So you can use it to link summon this card. Monsters you control cannot be destroyed by the effect of the Seal of Orichalcos, so it gives it that protection from your own card, as well as your other monsters. If you activate the seal after you've special summoned, it protects those monsters. And finally, you can tribute this card, special summon one Orichalcos Gygus, and add to your hand one Orichalcos Qtora from your deck or graveyard. So again, that turns this card into a starter card. It helps you get out your main combo of the deck, and I think it's just something that the deck really needs. It's a little bit underpowered, but it's just to give the deck a little bit of a boost to get you into those main strategies. I did not want this deck to focus on the extra deck monsters, because of course, it starts his deck, he doesn't have extra deck monsters, this is like Series 1, right? We don't have these cards. But yeah, I think that's definitely necessary for the deck. I think it's a very cool card. And finally, we have Orichalcos God Leviathan. I'm sure you all expected that. First of all, check out this artwork by B98X. This is a very cool artwork, fits with the rest of my artwork really well, which is awesome. And fun fact, in the original Japanese anime, the beast that Darts is trying to bring back by sacrificing everyone's souls, he only calls it the Orichalcos God. In the Japanese version, it was never actually called the Leviathan. That is entirely a English dub creation, which was definitely a cool English dub creation. I really love that it's the Leviathan, but apparently, originally, it's not the Leviathan, it's just the Orichalcos God. So, what does this card do? I didn't want this card to be the main focus of the deck, didn't want it to add too much, but if a face-up Divine Serpent gear you control is destroyed, you can special summon this card from your extra deck and attach that monster to this card as material. So this requires 3 level 12s normally, but you can summon it when gear is destroyed, which is reminiscent to how the Orichalcos God was revived in the anime. Once Darts, once Divine Serpent was destroyed, Darts lost the duel, his soul was taken, and the Leviathan was revived just like that. So that is reminiscent of that. Next, it has the effect that if this card has Divine Serpent gear as material, you can detach one material from this card, banish all monsters in the graveyards, and then this card gains 1,000 attack for every monster banished by this effect. That effect on its own is actually severely powerful. Banishing all the monsters from your opponent's graveyard is a really, really strong effect in today's day and age. Your opponent wants the graveyard, especially if you're going up against Horus or something, and you just wipe out their graveyard, that is going to be severely damaging. And also, it's going to gain a lot of attack. Like, if you get this card out, you should at least have, 5-6 monsters in your graveyard already. Plus your opponent's, that's 6,000 attack already. That is a lot of attack. Like, that attack adds up very quickly, making this a formidable final boss monster for the deck. And also, that just is representative of, again, Darts with the Orichalcos has been stealing souls to power up the Great Leviathan. So that's just the same sort of thing. You steal the souls from the graveyard to power up the Leviathan is basically what's going on with that. Finally, an extra effect to work with the power of destiny. This is the main use that I wanted to have for this card. Like, this is a final boss monster if you lose Divine Serpent, but normally this is just a searcher card. So what this card does is, during your next standby phase after this card was sent to the graveyard, add up to 3 Orichalcos cards from your deck to your hand. So that can get us all of our Orichalcos field spells, all 3 of them, just like that. It can get us our Seal of Orichalcos plus Gigas and Qtora, just like that, got our combos. Can get you your Mirror Knight Calling, can get you your Orichalcos Mirror plus field spells. It just gets you 3 of your cards, and that can easily be used to start up your combo on the next turn. I've designed that effect to be a little bit like, what is it? Hysteric Party? No, it's not. No, I knew that was Hysteric Party. Which one am I thinking of? Hysteric Sign. So I've made this card to be a little bit like Hysteric Sign, that it gets you 3 cards after it's sent to the graveyard, but it gets you them on the next turn. We don't want it to be too overpowered. If you've got the Power of Destiny on the field, which is the main way to send this to the graveyard, then you're probably powerful enough as is. But this just gets you those extra field spells that, you know, the ones I created, Deuteros and Tritos, just to really get your combos going and get all of that in play, because those are very powerful cards, and Tritos is unaffected by card effects. So we don't want to get them out too quickly, but we don't want to like dilly-dally around and wait forever to get those out. This is an example of what an Orichalcos deck would look like using these cards. So we've got a lot of focus. Infinity End, very powerful card. Divine Serpent Gear is obviously a lot easier to summon in real life, so including 2 of these plus 3 of these is definitely like good enough. Like, you don't have to do the whole Shuneros thing. But obviously, main strategy of this deck is the same as in the anime. You either go for Gear, you go for a Kutora Gygas combo, or you go for your Mirror Knight Calling combo. I think these cards are a lot of fun. They're really cool cards, and quite realistic to what Konami could actually do to save the Orichalcos archetype. I mean, this card, Orichalcos Shuneros, they really made a mess of it. It makes no sense and doesn't work with the Orichalcos cards at all. But now, with these cards, it does. So if you want to use these cards on Dueling Book, all you have to do is go to your deck construction, go to more options, and go to all custom cards, and then you can search them up from there and just look for my one. It'll have Senkara in the bottom corner there if you want to use my versions of the cards. Test them out with your friends and see how fun they are. So now I'm just going to show you what this deck sort of looks like when used in action. We'll go into solo mode. Alright, so that is not the most ideal, but we've got Orichalcos Matia. Okay, Matia will let us pay 500 to search for an Orichalcos card. I would either go for Kutora or simply the Seal of Orichalcos. Kind of a tough choice. This isn't really the best hand, I will be the first to admit. But I think adding Kutora will be the best way to start that, and then we can always just sit on our Orichalcos Gigas, which isn't a bad start at all. Let's reset and see what else we've got. Okay, here we go. This is definitely much more likely and much more of a powerful hand. So, of course, we've got Infinite Impermanence, which is great. We've got Orichalcos Gigas, which we can bring out to the field to get him pumping. And now we've got the Seal of Orichalcos. Gives him an extra 500 right off the bat. And the Power of Destiny, which again is a very powerful card. First of all, allowing us to send our Leviathan to the graveyard, so his effect will trigger next turn, and gives us all those extra effects. So now, if we're going first, our opponent can't summon monsters from the extra deck. Neither can we, of course. We've got the first seal. But that just means that, like, makes it a lot harder for our opponent to get rid of the Seal of Orichalcos. Like, now, this card can't be destroyed by card effects once per turn. Now they can't go into like Nightmare Unicorn or anything, or SP Little Knight just to get rid of these cards. A lot of spell and trap destruction nowadays is in the form of extra deck monsters, and of course we've got Infinite Impermanence for that protection anyway. Then on the next turn we draw a card. During our standby phase, our Leviathan's effect will go off, allowing us to add 3 Orichalcos cards to the hand. So basically the first ones you want to go for is Deuteros and Tritos. Get those in your hand, and now we can grab our, since we've got Gygas, let's grab Kutora as well. We control Seal of Orichalcos, so we can pay 500 life points to put Kutora in our spell and trap card zone, still treated as a monster. Then we can get rid of Seal of Orichalcos for Deuteros, and get rid of Deuteros for Tritos, and then use its effect to gain 1000 life points, just like that. That is pretty good. I mean, that is definitely a powerful field to start off with on second turn and first turn with Power of Destiny, locking down our opponent. I think this is pretty cool. I don't think it's particularly broken at all, but test it out for yourself. Let me know what you guys think of these cards. Let me know if you think they're pretty cool. I think they came out quite well, and I'm quite happy with them. Very satisfying indeed. Let me know what you think down in the comments, any changes that you would make. Thank you all so very much for watching. Our last chance to get that new Orichalcos merch from my merch shop at senkara.myspiritshop.com. If you like Orichalcos, you like darts, check those out, at least give them a look. And thank you all so very much for watching. My name has been Senkara, and until next time, see ya. Also, let me know if you want to see more custom cards. Like, I make custom cards all the time, and they go a bit past the regular, like, custom card stereotype, you know, custom card bad. I make them pretty balanced, I make them realistic, and I make them a lot of fun. So if you want to see more custom cards from me, let me know in the comments. I think it could be cool. Maybe you're not interested, but let me know. Anyway, thanks. See ya.